Is teacher Shella. So for today, our topic is all about the digifiction. So before that, let's define first what is digifiction. So digifiction is a literary experience that combines three media: book, movie or video, and internet website. Since we are now in 21st century where education implemented technology to be able to students to adapt the new technology in new world. And for that, when a teacher also produce materials that would help the students' needs and capacity. So digifiction cater the students in terms of reading in all media platforms. And also, in order to get the full story, students must engage in navigation, reading, viewing in all this format. So not just depending on books, but also depending on internet website. So here is the example of the digifiction. It is a book series of Patrick Horman, The Skeleton Creek, The Ghost in the Machine, Crossed Bones, and Raven. Why did digifiction emerge? So let's tackle this first. First is people's attention span must becoming shorter and shorter, and that is was important to give the people more option on how they consume entertainment books, whether it is online or offline. There have been a technological paradigm shift from sit-back media to learn-forward media. So as I said earlier, people is nowadays containing there are many ways to learn, whether it is books or media. So here, what do we need to know about digifiction? It can mean that the entire book can only be found online. Sometimes works include passcodes so that there will be access to more information. Okay, that is the digifiction. So the second one is doodle fiction. So this doodle fiction is a literary representation where the author incorporates doodle drawings and handwritten graphics in the place of traditional font. Drawings enhance the story, often adding humorous elements that would be missing if the illustration were omitted. So the author of this doodle fiction, the purpose of this fiction is to entertain readers with the visual presentation. So when the reader are attracted to the fiction itself, you will need to use drawings that will be entertain their that will be capture their mind and their interest to read the fiction novel. So here is the characteristic of doodle fiction. Simple drawings can make readers concrete representational meaning, or may just be composed of a random or abstract line. Doodling engaged the brain's effective resources, processing the help us plan, multitask, and concentrate. So if we were reading a books, if that books is containing images, drawings, so we are able to catch our interest, and it is engaging to read. It also acts as a mediator between the spectrum of thinking too much or thinking too little, and help us focus in the current situation. Another thing, business people use doodles to map business plans and strategies. Since doodle fiction, doodles in drawing, it will produce a good characteristic of a business and plan, since it is imaginary. Another thing, across the globe, people from all the walks of life are dawdling to help them communicate, to give visual presentation and meaning their ideas, and to help others understand their perspective and opinion. So here is the example here. So there are a lot of elements the doodle fiction. First, most importantly, is the plot. In fiction, the structure of the unrelated action concisely selected and arranged by the author. So the plot itself can help the reader identify which the scenario arranged properly. And then second one is character. It is the person in a narrative work or art such as novel, play, television, series, or movie. The character can be completely fictional or based on the real life person. Second is the setting. So most importantly, when you have to write a little fiction, you need to include always the setting. So the setting is both the time and the geographic location within the narrative or within the work of fiction. Another is the person point of view or POV. It is essentially the eyes through which a story is told. So there are many types of person point of view, the person point of view, the omniscient, and the third person point of view. It is the narrative voice through which readers follow the story plot, meet its character, and discover its setting and the entire into its relationship, the emotion, and the conflict between the character. Last is the theme. In works of fiction, a theme is the central idea or the ideas explored in the story. This is where you give the gist of your story, how the story evolved and how the stories goes in your fiction. Another is the style. So the style, doodles are simple drawings that can have the concrete representational meaning or may just be composed of random and abstract line, generally without ever lifting the drawing device from the paper, in which case it is usually called the scribble. So that is the doodle fiction. Another is the flash fiction. So flash fiction goes by many names, including microfiction, microstories, short stories, very short stories, sudden fiction, postcard fiction, and nanofiction. So flash fiction, it can be difficult to pinpoint an exact definition of flash fiction based on the word count or the other name. In consideration of the several of its features can help provide clarity in its brevity, length, background, and purpose. So what are the rules of flash fiction? Flash fiction is the modern term given to a very short story. So it is another term for the short story. So usually one under 500 words in length. There is no standard definition, and some people argue that the term only applies to stories at less than 300 words, and others say that only stories under 1,000 words qualify. But then, whatever the agreed length of flash fiction, it should be still contain all the elements that you would expect to find the reader in a longer story. So here is the elements of flash fiction. So flash fiction must have the beginning, of course, the middle, and an end. For the story to have impact and to catch the reader's attention, there should be some change in action or motivation to the protagonist. So the reader needs to feel that there is some kind of resolution after the conflict by the end of the story. Another is the writing to such a tight brief is difficult. It is the different skills that or the writing novel. Another, an author needs to convey the character and plot in a succinct manner, make every word count. So another, the essentials of flash fiction or microfiction. So the story is, yes, as I said earlier, the story is short in length. This could be as brief 6 words. The tale must engage with the reader's emotion, feelings, perspective, and opinion. Your character must be fully developed and not cardboard cutouts. So every story in flash fiction, the character must have a change or a development. So the story should mark a change or epiphany for the main character. There should be physical change, just as earlier, or a change of mind that has life-changing impact. So good fiction includes a surprise or the plot twist. So it is important to have a plot twist because that's where the reader's suspense. So if your fiction have the suspense, your reader might catch their interest and to read more about your story. The ending should be unexpected and not predictable. So here is the characteristic of the flash fiction. First is the story structure. A flash fiction story is not the shortened version of a long story. The setting, most flash fiction stories take place in one setting, as moving between locations uses up too much space. So character and backstory. Flash fiction pieces are plot-driven and include no more than 3 or 4 characters. So description, one may think that flash fiction stories are short or description to save space. So that is the 3